Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. You need me to turn on my video?
Yes, I need
Okay, wait.
to do so.
Okay.
All right.
Mm.
Okay.
Mm.
I guess we'll start right away.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
first, my name is Annie. So you can call me Anne.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Okay. But before we start, may I have your consent to record this video?
Okay.
All right. Okay. So, our first question would be: I would like you to introduce yourself. And where do you come from?
Okay. I'm Teddy. I'm from Singapore, and I'm a student studying for a diploma in banking and finance now.
So you currently in Singapore or Malaysia?
I'm in Malaysia for a holiday.
Oh, I see. So before this, you are usually
In Singapore. Yeah, I'm usually in Singapore.
All right. Okay. Okay. Next question. Where did you first learn English?
I started learning English since I was young, and I speak both English and Chinese at home. So from kindergarten, yeah, my parents spoke English to me at home as well, both English and Chinese.
So mainly from home.
Yeah, from home and school. Yeah.
From home and school. All right. Okay. So English is not your first language, right?
English is my first language. English is the first language in Singapore. So technically, you have first language and mother tongue in Singapore. It's different. Mother tongue is Chinese or Mandarin. English is the first language in Singapore, and I speak both of them. So yeah, English is my first language. Yes.
All right. I see. Okay. So what does your country uses English for? Like for official purposes?
Yeah. In Singapore, almost everything is in is in English, and official documents are in English. The medium of instruction in school is in English as well. So basically, for subjects like math, science, and history, we all use English to teach them. Every lesson is taught in English, other than the mother tongue languages like Chinese, Malay, and Tamil. Yep.
So would you say you use English more than Chinese, Mandarin?
I guess I would speak Chinese at home and with my friends, but I would speak English in school.
I see. Okay, okay. So your country does acknowledge the English language as one of the official language?
Yes, English is one of the 4 official languages in Singapore.
Sorry, wait a minute. Can you repeat?
English is one of the 4 official languages in Singapore.
What is the other 3 official language?
Chinese, Malay, and Tamil.
Oh, Malay as well. Oh,
Yep.
I didn't know that. All right, okay. Based on your observation, do you think that nowadays more people are speaking English in your country compared to in the past?
Yes. In the context of Singapore, the younger generation are using English more. English is more commonly spoken, especially in schools. In the past, people used to use dialect and Mandarin and Malay or Tamil, but now more people are using English. Yep.
Okay, thank you. Next, is there any words from the English language that you find it hard to pronounce?
Yes. For me, Singaporeans would pronounce words such as divorce wrongly. Some people would pronounce it as divorce. I think it's divorce, not divorce. Yeah. That's an example.
Can you give another 2 examples?
Another 2 examples are anything.
All right, sure. Take your time.
I mean, I will need to see the word to ascertain whether I can pronounce it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I cannot think of any at this time. Sorry.
All right, okay, sure, it's okay. So can you tell me any unique vocabulary from your country? Like, you know, there's like English, but there's also like Pidgin, where it's like mix of Chinese and English.
Yeah, so basically, some of the unique vocabularies from my country is catch no ball. So catch no ball means you didn't catch the ball, which means you are totally clueless. And then another word is xian. It's a loan word from Hokkien or Chinese dialect. It means bored. Yeah, and then another word would be atas. Atas is a loan word from Malay, is it? Or I'm not sure from which language, but it just means that something is of a very high social status or high class. Yep.
Oh, in Malaysia, like atas just means like atas the table, on the table. Yeah, something like that.
Mm.
Okay. Next is the sentence structure in your mother tongue different than English? As English use like SVO, subject, verb, and object
Yep.
structure.
It's a bit different, but I'm not really sure what's the difference. Basically, like the vocabulary and the sentence structure for English and Mandarin is very different. Like um like you cannot directly translate. If you directly translate word by word, the 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 it will be wrong. Like for example, in Chinese you will say chicken is like chicken meat is 鸡肉, but you cannot directly translate if you know what I mean. Yeah.
Okay, understand. Okay, in your opinion, what are the pros and the cons of the expansions of English in your country?
So a pro would be it would be beneficial for economical development as everyone in the world would use English. English is an international language. So by using English language, everybody would be able to communicate, and that would boost national unity as well. However, some of the downsides would be a decline of the proficiency in mother tongue languages because since everybody starts using English and brushing up on their English skills, people would forget their mother tongue languages, and a lot of people in Singapore cannot speak their mother tongue languages anymore. They only speak English. Yep.
All right. Okay, that's apparently the last questions for our interview session. Thank you so much for your simple, direct answer and also for your time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye. Bye.
Hi, Lisa. Thank you
Hi.
for agreeing to participate in this interview. So before we start, can you please introduce yourself and where do you come from?
Okay, so hello, my name is Kalisha Kwamnanaura, or Lisa for short. I'm from Jakarta, Indonesia. I've born there, I've lived there all my life, and now I'm in Malaysia to study, and this is my final year of studying in Malaysia.
I see. So, Lisa, where did you learn English before?
I learned English, I think it was started at when I was 9 or 10. I took a course for about a year and a half. But then after that, I stopped and I just picked it up from movies and songs from since then. So yeah, until now.
Oh, that's cool. Okay. Is English your first language?
No. My first language is my mother language, which is Bahasa Indonesia. But I would say that English is my second language and probably the second language that I'm quite best at. So yeah.
Oh, okay. I can see that you're very good in it. So, what does your country use English for?
Even though I think for the last, I mean, like in the past few years, Indonesia has been picked use English for like international governmental communications, and recently not most, but some of like the companies use English for their official administrative language. For example, like making MOUs. Yeah, we started using English for the past I would say 5 to 10 years back. Yeah.
So does your country acknowledge the English language as one of the official language?
No, because unlike Malaysia, which English is widely used, Indonesia, we still use Bahasa Indonesia as our official language, and followed by some other like cultural languages, because we have quite different languages in Indonesia. So yeah, English is not our official language.
Oh, I see. And based on your observation, do you think that nowadays more people are speaking English compared to in the past, like in your countries?
Absolutely, because I think for like the today's generation, their awareness of the importance of English is significantly increased, because especially globalization hits Indonesia, I think people are more aware of how important English is, especially when you're working or like when you're a student. English is widely used worldwide, and yeah, I think the younger generations of Indonesians are more aware of English, and they use English actually on a daily basis.
That's good to hear. So is there any words from in the English that you find hard to pronounce?
For me personally, I would say rural and brewery, because like there's like two R's in one sentence, which I'm not really good at. So yeah, when there's like a same letter that's kind of like overlapping each other in one word, I think it's very hard to pronounce. So yeah, rural and brewery. That's quite hard for me
Oh,
to
so
pronounce.
because of the R words. Okay.
Yes.
And can you tell me any unique vocabulary in your country? Like at least 3.
Okay. Any unique one? I would say bule. Bule is like the Malaysian version of matsale, I would say. So it's like a foreigner, but then especially the Caucasian ethnicity. And then bengong. Bengong, it's like when you're lost in your own thoughts, you know, like when you're looking at something, but then you don't really know what you're thinking, like you're in awe, like when you're sad, you know, like when you don't know what you're thinking at the moment. And then the last one would be kan. Kan, there's no like a literal translation to kan, but then when in the context of the English language, I would say, for example, I've told my friend to not do something before, but then she did it anyway. So say, instead of like saying, see, like I've told you before, this is not good for you, this is like horrible for you, instead of like saying that like a long set of sentence, I would just say kan, just like that, with that like special tone, like kan, like I've told you before to not do this.
Okay, that's interesting to hear. And then is this sentence structure in your mother tongue is different than English, as you know English use SVO, subject, verb, object?
Actually, yes. We do have the same sentence structure. So in English, they use SVO, but in Indonesia, we use SPO. So it's subject, predicate, and an object. But you know, sometimes the sequence of the sentence is very different. But most of the times, yeah, the sentence structure is pretty much the same as English.
Okay, and last questions. In your opinion, what are the pros and cons of the expansion on English in your country?
As for the cons, the pros, I would say the first one is global communications. Indonesia has been they moving forward to the global market, especially when you're working. And I think using English, because English is like the one of the most used language in the world. I think it's easier for us Indonesians to use English to better communicate with people from all around the world. So it's very good to use English as for like the global communications. The second one is opportunities for tourism, because Indonesia, we have a lot of like tourism attractions, especially like those islands, beaches, and mountains, I would say. And if like the Indonesian people use English to attract tourism, I think it will be better for us to communicate with them, and you know, the foreigners and the tourists will understand us better. As for the cons, I would say it can like give away local languages, because we have, I think, thousands of like local languages, and when people start using English, uh they learn it on a daily basis, right? And they can potentially forget their local languages. For example, me, my family's originated from Jakarta, and Jakarta is influenced by the Java languages and some parts of like Melayu languages. So being someone who is speaking English on a daily basis, I sometimes forget my local languages. So yeah, it can be one of the cons. And the second one is socioeconomic disparities. So when you're since English is not widely used in Indonesia, so those people who use English on a daily basis, who speak English very well, they're seen as someone who is like more than everyone that didn't use English. So it can be there's like a gap. There's like a negative gap between the people who use English and not use English. So yeah, I think that's like the con. So people who use English start to like calling names to the people who don't use English, who don't understand English better. So yeah.
Okay, thank you so much for explaining your answer. I learned a lot from your experience in learning English, and also I learned new words as well, such as bule, kan, and also bangong. Okay,
Yes.
that's very interesting. Thank you so much for participating in this interview. I really appreciate it.
You're very welcome, SYIFA. Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. So, hi Omar. Thank you for taking the time to join me today for this interview.
Thank you so much for having me, and anytime, glad to help.
All right. Okay, so as you know, today we are focusing on how English is used in Egypt, particularly in terms of vocabulary, grammar, and pronunciation. So, are you ready?
Yeah, always ready.
All right. Okay, so let's start by to know you a bit better. So, can you introduce yourself and tell us where you're from?
All right, so my name is Omar Mohammed Arif. I'm from Egypt, Cairo, the capital city, and I have been in Malaysia for 2 years studying cybersecurity, computer science in Multimedia University, Cyberjaya. I'm 20 years old, turning 21 this year, and yeah, that's about it, I guess.
All right, interesting. Now, where did you learn new English? Was it primarily through school or did you pick it up through other means?
I studied my whole life in English. So the school I went to was a private school that focuses on English as its official language or primary language. So I studied math, science, social studies, English, of course, throughout my life since first grade. That's primarily how I learned English, but focusing on my vocabulary, focusing on my pronunciation, and improving my accent was done like it was solo work. I watched just American movies or American series, and I tried to like catch up what they do, how they pronounce stuff. That's why my accent is not very much Egyptian.
Okay. So, now, is English your first language? Or did you learn it as a second language?
I would say I'm very fluent in English, but it's not my first language. My first language is still Arabic.
All right. All right. So, in Egypt, what are some common uses of English? Do government officials primarily use it, or is it more prevalent in communication and other areas?
We don't use English in governments. We don't use English in day-to-day communication. At least like the average Egyptian locals, they don't use English in their daily basis in the communication. But in schools, and mostly in private schools and international schools, we use English to study. So in private schools, English is taught as like the books are in English. The syllabus is in English, but the teachers sometimes still use Arabic. In international school, it's full on English. And it's practiced by some locals in communication, but it's mostly like the rich people who go to international schools and like they studied abroad. That's why they speak English more.
Oh, so you're rich?
No, I'm not. I just studied English.
Okay, I see. So, does Egypt officially recognize English as one of its languages alongside Arabic?
No. As far as I know, no, we don't.
Okay. All right. So, in your experience, do you think more people are speaking English nowadays compared to in the past in your country?
Yes, 100%.
Absolutely. All right. So pronunciation can be tricky sometimes. So, are there any English words that you find particularly difficult to pronounce?
Usually not, but as I do a lot of MCing and hosting, I've came across a few words that were a bit tough to pronounce. One of these words was always entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship is a word that was a headache for me at the start of my hosting career, and then after that, I just managed to pronounce it.
Okay, entrepreneur. All right. Okay. So now I'm curious, are there any unique words or phrases used in Egypt that are treated as English, even though they are not technically English words? Could you share at least 3 of them?
I can't really find any words that come to mind, but something that I came across yesterday, I was watching a YouTube video, and the YouTuber was trying to explain how Egyptian movies are meme material, or they can be memeable. It was like part of the rating, and he used the word meme instead of memeable, and I don't know. I think that would be one word.
All right. All right. Okay, so in your mother tongue, how does the sentence structure compare to English? English typically follows an SVO, subject verb object structure, but does your mother tongue have a different sentence structure?
I think we do have a different structure, yeah, especially with like the feminine and masculine form of the sentence. Because, for example, if I want to say my name is Omar, in English it's just my name is Omar, and in Arabic it's Ana Ismi Omar. So I say I first, which is Ana. Then name is Ism, but we have to add a ya to that, make it Ismi to make it like my name, and then say Omar. I think that structure is applied throughout Arabic, and that's very tough for non-Arabs to like apply. Yeah.
All right. All right. So finally, okay, in your opinion, what are the pros and cons of the expansion of English in Egypt?
I think the pros would definitely be that we get to catch up with the world on the business side of it, and on the I mean, English is the most practiced world language in the world, so it makes it easy to get updates from outside the media, the business. Also, because Egypt is very famous for tourism, it makes it gives them a smoother experience when they come to Egypt, and it's easier to speak to the locals. Because usually, like 10 years ago, if a tourist comes to Egypt and he tries to speak in English, people are like, oh, no English. But nowadays, I think it's more common to like see at least someone that speaks at least basic English. He just give you directions or something. So it helps with Egypt's tourism as well.
All right. All right. So I think that's all for today. Thank you so much for your time, and I have a great time listening to your observation, to your answers, and thank you for your time. All right.
Thank you so much for having me, and I had a great time too.
All right. Okay. So thank you so much, Omar. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Assalamualaikum and hi, my name is UMAIRA. My ID number is SEC22070051. And today I'll be presenting about the information that I've collected from an interview session that I've conducted. The country that I've chosen is Singapore, which falls under the outer circle of the Kachru circle. Before we dive further, I would like to introduce my interviewee. A little bit about him is his name is Project Eng. He is 20 years old and he is from Singapore. He is currently completing his diploma in banking and finance. Okay, first, the usage of English language in Singapore. Well, first I would like you guys to know that English is one of the 4 official language in Singapore. Alongside English, we have Tamil, Malay, and also Chinese. So basically, the usage of English language in Singapore first as the official purposes. All of the government paperworks and people in the government offices and medium of instructions all are in English. Not only that, subjects like mathematics, science and histories are also taught in English. As per Teddy said, he and most Singaporean speak Chinese only with friends and at home. But when they go to school or any official event, they would speak English. Moving on to the increasing numbers of English language users in Singapore. Nowadays, the younger generation speaks English frequently, especially at school. In the past, people used to use dialects, Malay, Tamil, and also Chinese. But nowadays, many people are using English. This is due to the fact that the English language has become globalized and become the official language of Singapore. Next, pronunciation. Singaporean pronounce certain English words differently from how it's supposed to be pronounced in standard English. For example, we have the word divorce. Singaporean pronounce it as divorce. Next, we also have the word salmon. Singaporean pronounce it as salmon. Last but definitely not least, the word espresso. Instead of pronouncing it as espresso, they pronounce the word espresso as espresso. I would like to share with you guys some unique vocabulary that my friend Teddy had taught me. So first we have the phrase catch no ball. Catch no ball means that someone is totally clueless, which means that you did not catch the point. Next we also have the word sian. Sian is taken from a Hokkien word which means sports. So instead of they say let's go play sports, they would say let's go play sian. Okay, last but definitely not least, the word atas. Atas was originated from the Malay word, but in Malay, atas means on top. But when Singaporeans say it, they actually means to relate with the very high social status of a person or of an organization. The difference in English sentence structure and Chinese sentence structure is Chinese is a topic-oriented language, while English is a subject-oriented language. Therefore, it cannot be translated directly. Chinese sentence cannot be translated directly in English because of the difference in sentence structure. If we translate it literally, the translation would be wrong. For example, here we have one sentence in English. John studied hard in the library this afternoon. But if we were to translate this sentence literally in Chinese, it would be John this afternoon in the library hard study. I had asked Teddy about his opinion on the expansion of English language. He gave me two opinions, which is the pros and the cons. For the pros, he said that it's good because it boosts economical development. English has become one of the factors that contributes to Singapore economical development. Next, it's also good because it boosts national unity, because now people know how to interact with one another despite their background and language barrier. But for the cons, Teddy said it also contributes to the decline in proficiency of mother tongue. A lot of Singaporeans don't know how to speak their own mother tongue, which is Chinese. Last but not least, the justification on the spread of English language in Singapore. There are several factors why it spread, but first and foremost is because of colonization. During World War II, Singapore was colonized by Britain and the British forces. During that time, Singaporean native language was Malay, Tamil and Chinese. However, those changed when the British Empire took over. The English language spread in the dense part with most people, including kids, knowing how to write and speak in English. Next is because of unity. Most people that know two or more languages united together. They used the newly acquired language to do business with one another without any cultural barrier between them. Last, English was a mandatory language in most schools after the British demanded everyone to learn the language. As the country progressed in the colonial period and the nation maintained English and it became one of the official language in Singapore.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is SYIFA BINTI NAFISOL, and today I will present about the use of English in countries expanding circle, which is Indonesia. So first, let me introduce my interviewee's background. Her name is Kalisha Gomanera, or preferably called as Lisa. She is a 20 years old female from Jakarta, Indonesia, and currently studying in MMU Malaysia for almost 2 years. Moving on to the first question, I asked her about the uses of English in her country. And based on her answer, she said that English is not considered as official language since there are many cultural language or local language used in the country such as Javanese, Sundanese, and so on. However, since Indonesia is moving forward, the country has been using English for the international governmental communication, and also some of the company use English as the official administrative language. Next question, I asked her if nowadays people in her country are using English more often compared to the past. In her answer, she claimed that younger generation, including her, has been using English a lot nowadays in their daily basis. This is because their awareness of the significance of English has significantly increased a lot. This is because they are fully aware about how English is widely used in global communication. Moving on to the next question, I asked her if there is any English word that is hard to pronounce for her. So she gave me two answers, which are rural and brewery. She stated that it is hard to pronounce those two words because of the letter R that overlapping in the same word. As you can see, the word rural, R at the front and also R in the middle makes it complicated to pronounce, rural. In the next question, I asked her about the unique vocabulary that exists in her country, and she gave us three answers for that question. The first vocabulary is bule. Bule refers to the foreigners or Caucasian that live in Indonesia. The second one is bengong. Bengong is used to express when someone is lost in their own thoughts. And the last one is kan. Kan has many meanings, but according to her, kan is usually used to express disappointment or when you want to tell someone like, see, I told you, right? That's what kan means. Moving on to the next question, I asked if the sentence structure in her country is different from English. According to her, the sentence structure in Indonesia is quite similar with English, since English use SVO for the sentence structure. In Indonesia, they use SPO, subject, predicate, object, and it is similar to subject, verb, and object. In the last question, I asked her opinion about the expansion of English language in her country. Based on her answers, she said that the uses of English in her country is good for global communication, as people nowadays has been using English to communicate all around the world. She also stated that it is a very good opportunities for tourism, since there are many foreigners that come to Indonesia every year to visit the beach, the island, and so on. So it is very good for the people to learn English and communicate with the tourists. On the other hand, the expansion of English in Indonesia is giving away the local language. As I mentioned before, Indonesia has many cultural or local languages such as Javanese, Sundanese, and so on. So when people have been using English, they will forget their mother tongue, which is Indonesia. It also caused socio-economic disparities. Socio-economic disparities arise due to unequal access to English education and job opportunities. Those proficient in English often have better access to high-paying jobs and international opportunities, widening the gap between socio-economic class. Before I end this presentation, I would like to add justification for this issue. First, English language have been developed in Indonesia through globalization. This is because Indonesia has been colonized by the Dutch before. Dutch remained as the language of administration even after Indonesia gained the independence in 1945. Therefore, Dutch has more influence rather than English in the country. However, as Indonesia moving forward, the rise of globalization and the increasing importance of English as a global lingua franca has caused English to gain status in Indonesia. Therefore, many people in Indonesia has been learning and using English in their daily basis. That's all from me. Thank you.
Hi,
my name is JANNATUL AJILAH, and I'm going to present the interview I did with someone from the expanding circle, specifically Egypt. First of all, let's delve into the background of my interviewee. His name is Omar Muhammad Arif, a 21 years old man from Cairo, Egypt. He has been studying in Malaysia for approximately 2 years now, and is currently pursuing studies in cybersecurity at Multimedia University, Cyberjaya. Now, let's move on to the first question about the usage of English in Egypt. Unlike many countries where English is used in government, in Egypt, only Arabic is used for official government communication. English isn't commonly used in day-to-day conversation either, especially among the middle and lower class locals. However, Omar mentioned that he attended a private school where English is the primary medium of instruction, including books, teachers, and students' interactions. He also noted that English is predominantly spoken by the wealthy, particularly those with international connections. The next question, I asked about the increasing number of English language users in Egypt. Although Omar didn't elaborate much, he acknowledged there has been a noticeable increase in English users in Egypt. This could be attributed to the exposure of Western cultures through social media and tourism. Moving on to pronunciation, I asked if Omar faced any challenges with certain English words. He mentioned that due to his experience as an MC, he is generally comfortable with pronunciation. However, he admitted to finding some words like entrepreneurship a bit challenging due to their complexity and particularly with the R sound. Continuing with the interview, I asked Omar if he could share any unique vocabulary that sounded English but is only used in Egypt. He mentioned 2 examples. The first one is to access her, meaning to access it. Second, to cancel her, meaning to cancel it. While the base word exists in English, the usage and pronunciation differ, making them unique to Egypt. Next, I explored the topic of sentence structure, specifically comparing Arabic and English. Omar confirmed that Arabic sentence structure is indeed different than English SVO, subject, verb, object, as they have feminine and masculine forms influencing sentence construction. Finally, I asked Omar's opinion on the expansion of English in Egypt. He expressed positively, stating that it allows more people to engage in global business and facilitate access to external updates through media channels. Additionally, with Egypt being a popular tourist destination, the expansion of English provides tourists with a smoother experience. After a thorough understanding and a few research, I identified the reason for the spread of English in Egypt. I can say that English has gained ground in the Middle Eastern as a result of globalization, particularly in Egypt, which has never been colonized. However, English is not highly valued in Egypt. This is shown by its limited use of English in the official government documents. There are other reasons, such as the locals, they don't simply speak English on a daily basis. Only people with international connections use English. They are exposed to English due to social media, tourists, and for the rich, private school. That concludes my interview summary. Thank you.
In this group presentation, we will be comparing the differences and the similarities between Indonesia, Singapore, and also Egypt. First, we will be looking at the comparison between Indonesia and Singapore. So first, we have the similarity between Indonesia and Singapore. First, the usage of English language in Singapore and Indonesia are the same. Both countries acknowledge English language as one of the official language in their country. English language is used for government offices' medium of communication, act as international governmental language, and also is the official administrative language in Indonesia and Singapore. Their second similarity is regarding their pronunciation. Both countries face difficulties when pronouncing words with a letter that should be silent. For example, in Singapore, we have the word salmon. Singaporean pronounce the word salmon as salmon. The letter L should be silent, but Singaporean pronounce it anyway. For Singaporean, they find it hard to silence the letter L in a word. While in Indonesia, we have, for example, the word sword. Indonesian pronounce the word sword as sword. They do not silence the W because it's hard to pronounce the word without the W sound. So they would pronounce it as sword, when the correct pronunciation would be sword. The third similarity would be their unique vocabulary. Both countries have their own unique vocabularies. Both of the unique vocabulary from both countries are derived from their mother tongue. For example, in Singapore, we have the word atas, which refers to a high social status. And in Indonesia, we have bule, which refer to foreigner. So both of the words atas and bule was derived from their mother tongue. Moving on to the differences between Singapore and Indonesia. The obvious difference between Singapore and Indonesia is the sentence structure. As Singapore used the Mandarin language, so the sentence structure would be SOV, subject, object, verb. While Indonesia used Bahasa Indonesia, and the sentence structure would be SPO, which is subject, predicate, object, which is similar to SVO that in standard English.
Next, I'm going to present about the similarities of the expanding circle, which are Indonesia and Egypt. The only similarities that we found in these interviews is only pronunciation. Both countries find it hard to pronounce the letter R that overlapping in the same word. As for the Indonesia, she mentioned the word rural and brewery, while the Egypt mentioned entrepreneurship. As you take a close look at these three words, you will find that rural, brewery, and entrepreneurship have the same R letter that overlapping with each other, so it is hard for them to pronounce the word.
Hi, I'm AJILAH and I'm going to explain the differences between Indonesian English and Egyptian English, both in the expanding circle. So first of all, I'm going to explain the differences in the usage of English in both countries. In Indonesia, English is used as the international governmental language, as well as the official administrative language. In Egypt, on the other hand, English is not used in the government. It is not used in day-to-day basis either. However, for international matters, such as private schools and business, they do use English. Hence, here I can say that in Egypt, they use English officially in private schools as well as by rich people who have international business. In short, Indonesia uses English widely in government and administration, while Egypt limits its use to international contexts, such as private schools and business. Next is vocabulary, specifically unique vocabulary in each country. From Indonesia, they have bule, which means foreigner or Caucasian in Indonesia. They also have bengong, which means lost in your thought. In Egypt, they have teraksesha, which means to access it. And they have tekansela, which means to cancel it. The base word here exists in English, but the word as a whole did not. In essence, both countries have unique words that only exist in their country and reflect their cultural diversity. Last but not least, sentence structure. In Indonesia, they use SPO, subject, predicate, object, which is quite similar to SVO, subject, verb, object, as predicate includes the verb and phrases that complete the action. But in Egypt, they have completely different sentence structure, where the sentence is determined by the feminine and masculine forms of the sentence. In summary, Indonesia used a similar sentence structure to English, while Egypt have a completely different sentence structure, as it is based on gender.